Hey there, fellow CEOs. Welcome back. I'm your host, Carolee, and today I'm diving into ClickUp once again. This is episode 3, and this part we're focusing on having ClickUp as your business hub. Now, how is this actually possible? And so if you're new here, ClickUp is a very powerful tool, one of my favorites, that can absolutely streamline and transform the way that you manage your business. Okay, everything's going to flow through this. It's going to be that central hub for business. And so whether you're a solopreneur, you're part of a small team, maybe you even have a large team, ClickUp can absolutely streamline your workflow, right? Get you organized, and then obviously help you hit those goals in the process. And so before we get started today, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you that you didn't have to set this whole ClickUp workspace thing all by yourself. You didn't have to go this alone. You didn't have to watch, or you don't have to watch hundreds of tutorials trying to figure out exactly how to do the things. You don't have to go through the whole ClickUp Academy and figure all this out. You can actually opt in for a ClickUp Power Up Intensive and get this all set up in 1 week. Okay? 1 freaking week. With me, completely custom, someone that's already gone through, oh my gosh, an insane amount of hours playing around in ClickUp, watching tutorials, implementing it in real life businesses, getting feedback, right? I'm using all of these years of experience and all these different clients that I've worked with to make it super simple for you to set up your ClickUp workspace in a way that works for you and is completely customizable, right? And so I also want to tell you that there's a limited number of intensives available. And so if you want to grab one of those before they're gone, right, then you're going to want to head to the show notes and grab the link. It'll take you directly to the page so you know it's all included. Or you can just head to my website, theproductivityimpact.com, and grab the information there. Okay. And so let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. But before I actually do that, remember, if this is not the first episode, this is the third one of this little ClickUp series. And so if you haven't watched the last two or listened to the last two, the first one is where I busted the myth that ClickUp is too complex. All right. It comes down to one resounding factor after working with so many clients. This is one thing that stops people from actually being able to use ClickUp. So you can head to that episode and be able to deep dive into that. And then the last one was all about my favorite time-saving tools that are inside of ClickUp as well. So ClickUp itself is set up to be a time-saving tool, period, but I highlight a few of the different things that I absolutely love. And so if you want to dive more into those, go ahead and check out those 2 episodes. And then this one kind of brings it all together. Okay. So I'm answering the question today of how do I use ClickUp as my central hub for business? And before I jump into actually how you use it, what does a central hub for business mean? Okay. And a central hub for business means that this is like the go-to place that everything lives. It's linked in there. It's tracked in there. You communicate in there. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't use outside sources, but it all kind of comes together inside of ClickUp and makes it super efficient for your team, for yourself, and for just simplicity's sake. You don't have 5 million tabs open. That one's my favorite, actually. So there's a lot of power in getting organized in your business because it's directly correlated to the amount of efficiency that you have, the amount of productivity, right? The amount of time you can save, or the amount of time that you actually need to use to run your business, right? And so the first step is in mastering ClickUp, right? And actually understanding it is understanding its hierarchy, right? And it has a hierarchy. I talk about that in the first episode. I also have a YouTube tutorial and I'm walking you through what the hierarchy is in ClickUp itself. And so you can think of it as organizing your physical workspace. Okay. So you start with the room, right? The room your office is in, right? That's a space inside of ClickUp. All right. And then you divide that room into sections, right? That's folders. All right. And then finally, you organize your specific tasks within each of those sections, and that's going to be your lists. Okay. And so again, I have a tutorial on understanding the hierarchy on YouTube. You can head to the Productivity Impact or grab the direct link in the show notes. Okay. So there is a lot of support as far as I have a whole series on YouTube about setting up ClickUp. Very getting started, sort of basics. Anything that's beyond, we're looking at automation, which I'm going to get into today a little bit, is some of the more custom things like custom fields and whatnot, how we, use views and filters, all that stuff is a little more advanced and is on a use case basis, right? So how you specifically need to do it, it's a lot harder to just show in a ClickUp series. Okay. And so that's where you're going to want to grab a ClickUp Power Up Intensive, because that one's going to be able to help you be really specific in how you have it set up. If you already have a basic workspace set up inside of ClickUp, you can still definitely get a lot out of the intensive, because we're going to go in there and look at it, and then we're going to optimize it, and then we're going to customize it some more. We're going to really get it working for you. Okay. So just throwing that out there. And so today I'm talking as if you have at least one team member. As I'm going on, we're talking as if you have one team member at minimum. I want to point out, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or if you have multiple team members, you can still use this, just in a little bit of a different capacity. Okay. And so the first thing that you use ClickUp for is task management, right? As business owners, we know that there are millions of tasks that we have to do, and sometimes they feel overwhelming. And on top of it, there's projects, right? There are so many things that we have to do. And so we need to make sure that we have this central place that all of our tasks live, right? And so one way that you can use task management inside of ClickUp is going to be breaking down these larger projects into smaller, manageable tasks. And so that's even like assigning them to team members. That's just like creating like literally tiny, tiny steps. It's breaking it down and having it all live in one space. And then you can also set deadlines to keep things moving. And so breaking down those large projects into smaller, manageable tasks. And so one way you can actually do this is I actually create like a projects folder personally. And then inside that folder, I have a list for all of the projects that I'm working on that are bigger. It's not like a one little tiny thing, but like they're bigger, like redoing a whole website, for example. I'm going to be breaking that down inside that task list, right? And so I can put deadlines on it accordingly. I can even assign it to a team member if that feels good, whatever it is. But the tasks are broken down, and we're able to kind of like see the progress on it as well. And so, as I said before, we can assign these tasks to team members, and we can set the due dates, right? So it's allowing you to have the autonomy, but also allowing you to stay organized, and also allowing you to give those tasks to delegate to your team members very simply, because all the information is inside that task or inside that list, right? And so it can also allow you to, like I said, track this progress, right? Manage these deadlines without micromanaging. So you can just have oversight of these, like you're monitoring them, but you're not like, what's the progress on this? What's the progress on this? Oh, do you have any questions, right? It's all in one central location. And that is huge. All right, so that's the first thing, was task management. That's how you can use it, just a few ways, right? The second thing as to how you can really use ClickUp as your central hub for business is going to be collaboration. Like I said, I am using this as a case that you have at least one team member that you're working with. All right, so this is a great way that you can use ClickUp for in the collaboration realm, is going to be using comments and mentions to communicate effectively. And so if you have a question, if you do or your teammate does, they have a question about that a specific task, right? You can seriously just tag whomever you believe can answer it, right? And then the best part is it's in that task or that document that you're referring to. So it has all the information needed. We're not like in an outside source going, that one thing that you assigned me and this, and this is a question. And then you might be racking your brain like, oh man, I don't remember exactly what spot that they're talking about. Like what part of it is in that project, right? But if you're commenting on that task directly, all the information you need is there. And there's no question on what task they're referring to, which is huge. All right. So the second thing when it comes to collaboration is sharing files and documents that are actually within the platform. So you can upload files to ClickUp, you can create documents directly in ClickUp, or you can actually link files from outside of ClickUp, right? So like Google Drive, for example. All right. So another way that you can actually use files and documents within the platform, though, is like creating standard operating procedures. You can create agendas in there or meeting notes in there. You can create project notes. You can, like all of this is right inside the platform, or you can link it in. So everything for that project, everything for that SOP, all of these things stay very neatly together. Okay. So this third way that you can use collaboration here inside of ClickUp as your central hub for business is collaborating on tasks in real time. Okay, so I've been adding tasks to a client's workspace while we're on Zoom. So I'm super efficient in this way. I have their ClickUp up and we are brainstorming, we're talking, I'm putting things in the documents, or I'm creating quick tasks right as we're on that call, right? And it pops up almost immediately on their end. All right, so collaboration can become super, super efficient and accurate, right? And so that is where we're going to actually save some time in real time, right? Okay, cool. So we already covered task management, and now we just covered collaboration. There's 4 of them. This third one here is time tracking. So you may or may not have your team members track your time. You may or may not track your time. As I'm recording this, I track my time to an extent, although I am finding that I am the bottleneck in a lot of things, which means I'm going to have to start delegating a lot more, which means I have to know how much time things actually take me to make sure that when I'm talking to like a potential team member, right, that I have an accurate representation, or at least somewhat accurate, of how long these things are taking me to know if this person is going to be able to do them, depending on what it is, right? So just understanding where your time is going too. If you're getting to the end of the day and you're like, I didn't get all my tasks done, we're going to have to go back to like, how much time are we spending on different things? And so one way that ClickUp can actually help you do this for yourself, or have your team members do it if that makes sense for them, is estimate how long tasks are going to take, right? That helps you plan ahead. How big of a block do I need? How many sessions do I need, right? And then you can actually track the time on the tasks, right? So this is great for estimating how long a task is going to take versus the actual time it takes, right? So you can see them right beside each other. As I've already said before, is like tracking team members' time, if that makes sense for you and their working relationship, right? Or you can use this data that you have produced by just tracking your time to price packages based on that. Okay. So if you're creating packages, you know roughly how much time it is based off an hourly rate, whatever. Here's the package. This is what it's going to take roughly, right? So, but if you don't know how long things are going to take, speaking from experience, you're going to end up undercharging. Okay. And you're probably going to do it multiple times, especially as you do new services, new things, who knows? But this is a way to help you be able to make it even simpler, right? Or even just pay your team member properly if you do things by hourly, right? Okay, so the second thing when it comes to time tracking here in ClickUp is going to be, you can actually generate detailed reports to analyze like some productivity, right? So the workload reports, the time tracking reports, you can even see like KPI reports if you put them on dashboards. There's plenty of ways you can use custom reports that apply to time tracking and also apply not to time tracking, okay? So super amazing reports when it comes to those things. And then you can also, if you're tracking your time for your clients, especially if you are tracking your time for hourly rates, right? So you have to make sure that that's super accurate. You can actually bill your clients super accurately by using the time tracking feature in here on each task. So not only do you know how long, like how much time you have to bill to your client, but also how much time it realistically took for you to do each one of those tasks for that client. And so this is also great to see where your time is actually going and to see what services or packages are the most profitable based off of a whole bunch of cases, right? But if you don't actually track the time in this respect, you don't have the data to back up a realistic, accurate package per se, right? You have ideas, but just like when you set a budget, sometimes you need to track it in order to see how accurate the budget is. It's the same idea. All right. And so this fourth thing, right? The first one was task management. The second one was collaboration. Third one, time tracking. And the fourth and final, I should say, is going to be automations, which is by far one of my favorite things. I'm always down with, can I set it and just update it later on? But it does things for me and I don't have to touch it. Okay. So automations is automating repetitive tasks like task creation, status updates, and reminders. Those are just 3 examples of how you can do this. So this allows you to stay organized without having to remember everything or constantly checking on them to see, especially if you have a teammate that has to do something in order for you to do something else, right? You can get automated updates based off of status changes. You can get automated reminders, if it's something you keep forgetting, or a client or a client or a team member forgets or something, it can automatically add templates to a task, right? We use this for my podcast management all the time. We create the task with just literally like a title or an episode number, and then it automatically adds a checklist, subtasks, description part, like we're just filling in. So it's all plug and play. It's already assigned to the right people. All we have to do is like plug in some due dates manually, and that's it. But some of those things we can do ahead of time for like months on end. And then we're able to be like, okay, now the automation is going to run itself and things like that. Okay. And so again, this is kind of like putting into setting up triggers and actions to streamline the workflow, right? That was a perfect example of how I was able to do that. And so another way that you can actually automate things is like, let's say you use ClickUp forms. And so one of my favorite things was when people submit forms, you can automate what happens next, right? So if they fill out this specific thing, we're going to have it do this. Or when they fill out this form, it's going to get assigned to this person. It's going to create this thing, right? You can make them pretty complex depending on what ClickUp plan you have. But it's also like some basic things too, is it can add a template to that based off of that form, right? And so it can easily be like an intake form, for example, and now it's going to automatically, based off of the intake form, it's going to add this template to it. It could be some subtasks, it could be whatever, a checklist, right? So it's saving you so much time and actual manual work when you are able to set up automations, but you also have to know exactly what your process is in order for this to be automated. Okay. And so I'm going to give you a few tips here on effectively using ClickUp before we conclude for this episode, but I want you to continue to just start small. Right? I was reminded of this today when I was talking to a coach about my money, and she's like, you can start small. Sometimes, saving $500 feels like you're going to climb a mountain and impossible, but saving 100 feels better. Okay, start small. Right? So if it's literally you created a workspace and you're tracking the tasks that you have to do on a recurring basis every day or every week, whatever, or you're just plugging in tasks that need to be done, that's starting small. Start with that simple workspace. And then as you get familiar with it, as you understand how you want it to get it set up, you can then add the complexity as your needs grow. Okay. So starting small does not have to be a bad thing. It's honestly a great thing, because I've set up big workspaces before, including my own at one point, where I was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. And then I realized I didn't set it up in a way that made sense to me. Now, this was very early on. I know better now, but that's why I know that a lot of people do this. Okay. And so I'm glad to know that I have learned so very much over the years, and now I can help you be able to set up your workspace even faster and tailored to you. So it's like no time at all on you, and you get a custom workspace. So in this too, though, you can customize this workspace, right? There's a few ways you can customize the workspace. You can use custom fields, you can use views, and then you can also create workflows in there that are tailored to your specific needs, right? But bigger in automations too, right? We've already talked about automations, but there are so many things that you can do to customize the workspace to work specifically for you and your business and what you need to keep track of in there, okay? Another thing that I love too is integrations, right? We love to integrate different things because there's seriously not literally one tool that does everything. And we don't want one tool that does absolutely everything, but we do like tools that can do quite a few things to keep things very centralized. And that's how I use ClickUp, is that central hub, right? And so we can integrate different things like your Google Calendar, or maybe your Google Drive, or if you use Dropbox or something, or you can integrate your email, right? And so integrating, they have a ton of integrations for the record, but you can integrate different things into this to be able to streamline your workflow, right? And then we have things like Zapier, where you can literally make zaps from this thing to talk to this thing and all that fun stuff, right? So we also have that type of an integration. Okay. And so then the last thing here that you're going to want to do to make sure you're using your ClickUp space effectively is reviewing it regularly and optimizing it. Okay. As your business changes, or as you need to keep track of more information, it's going to get a little bit more complex. So you're going to have to revisit it and make sure it's still working for you before things get out of hand, right? And so you have to continuously evaluate your workspace and make these adjustments as you need to. And there are so many little things over the years that I have learned, like how do we update a template when the template changed, right? That thing took me forever to figure out. It took me forever to find the templates, but that was years ago when they didn't have a template center. ClickUp has done a great job at making things a little bit more intuitive. Like, heck, for example, they just added chat to, as I'm recording this, I just got access to chat. I am blown away by this capability. I have not replaced my Slack yet, but it is so similar to Slack, and it's all in one place that it's like mind-blowing to me, and I absolutely love it. So I'm excited to see if I can say bye to my Slack bill and simply just have my ClickUp bill. I already paid for ClickUp. If I can integrate it in there, and then if for some reason something happens, right, we can still communicate, right? We have email, we have other ways of communication, right? We have an idea of what's going on, right? Because tech can tech, right? But we also have all of these amazing capabilities for things right at our fingertips, and they're all in one spot. So I'm going to use them, right? And so just take into account here, if you understand the fundamentals of ClickUp and you actually implement these tips that I've shared with you today, you can actually streamline your business operations pretty simply. Okay, because ClickUp is actually a very versatile tool, as I'm sure you have gathered today, if you've listened here, and it'll adapt to your unique needs, no matter if you're a solopreneur or you've got 6 team members or bigger, right? It doesn't matter, right? You can adapt to you. So you want to start small. We're going to experiment a little bit. And then we're most importantly, and this is my favorite part, we're going to have some freaking fun. Okay, because I love streamlining this stuff. And if this is not something that you think is fun, I can make it fun together. Okay, so if you're like, okay, maybe I want to do this, maybe I don't, you're questioning whether or not you want to use ClickUp. Like, is it right for you? Right? I had this exact same question. I trialed over 40 project management tools before I landed on ClickUp. Okay, that obviously is no longer the case. I talk about ClickUp all the time. I recommend it to most people. And so I am a firm believer in what this tool can do, and it's just getting better. And so you can head to the show notes. You can fill out the work with me form. If you're not really sure if ClickUp is right for you, I'd love to just have a chat, right? But I got to know a little bit more about you and your business in order for us to get a really good understanding and have a really productive conversation. Okay, because then after you fill out that work with me form, everything looks good, right? We can schedule a time to actually chat, and I can give you some very, very specific next steps, right? What's the next best step for you? Is it using ClickUp? Is it getting an intensive, right? What is it going to be for you to be able to make this happen for you in your business? So that way you can get that time back. You can like step into that visionary role, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that goal is and what you want ClickUp to do for you, we're going to integrate that into that intensive. And so if you're ready to actually go all in to make ClickUp like that central hub for our business, I want you to grab a ClickUp Power Up Intensive, right? Because I want you to skip the hundreds of tutorials and hundreds of hours, yes, of tutorials and working in the space. I want you to skip all of that hard, right? All that heavy lifting. And I want to be able to provide you with some very customized support to optimize your workspace for your specific use case, right? Your specific business, however you're using it. And so if you haven't already, I want you to grab a ClickUp Power Up Intensive. I want you to fill out that work with me form. And if you actually grab an intensive before the end of 2024, you're going to save some big money because the price increases on these in 2025. Okay? So either way, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about how we can create ClickUp to be your central hub for business or any other operational questions that you have. And so I would love to be able to work with you to make your business a super powerful tool and implement the tools that are going to make that happen together. Okay. So if you have any questions, reach out to me and fill out those forms. And I hope to have some of you grabbing an intensive because I'm super excited to end 2024 really helping people get really focused into 2025 and being able to manage all of those to-dos in a very more organized, streamlined way. All right, until next week, I'm actually going to be giving you some real life examples from my clients next week on the podcast. So make sure you don't miss it because I'm super excited to be going through all of their feedback and showcasing that to you.